and put it somewhere else because no one does that. It's me. I use my stuff. I know exactly where it is. And I've never really thought about why I do that up until right now. And it is so that I don't actually have to think about it. Everything's the same.
Yeah,
It's
you're absolutely right. And the owner of Sweet Tech, his name is Rainey, and
rainy.
what he's done is behind our workbenches. I'm not allowed to work in the back. I do sales and tech support, but
Uh-huh.
the actual guys that work and produce the income at the shop, Rainey built a rack of magnetic straps, and it's basically just Vince is our main engine guy. He does all the disassembly and all the assembly of pretty much 99% of our engines.
Uh-huh.
And then Rainey has his own workstation, and he does all the R&D. He does the porting, the machining, runs
Yes.
the dyno. So it's those two guys that are doing all the real production in the shop, and both of them set their tools up differently, but both of them have magnetic strips going across the backboard.
Hmm.
And then I come in once a week and I fuck them all up by grabbing a screwdriver, or I need to cut some fuel line for an order, so I grab my favorite pair of pliers, but then I stick them in my pocket instead of back on the shelf. But yeah,
That's
you're absolutely right.
sackable
I mean,
offense,
it's like
man.
they have everything lined up so they don't have to think about it.
Yeah, I guess that's why it is. It's just one less thing. You can concentrate more on what you're doing. Looking for errors is probably the and problem solving because when you're rebuilding an engine, they're all very similar. So if anything is wrong, it sticks out like dog's balls because you've seen it a million times a certain way. And when
Yes,
something's outside of that pattern, you're like, hang on a second, what's that? And you just
exactly.
start digging around, and boom, there's your problem. And
Yep.
I think that's why mechanics can find what you'd see insignificant problems to the layman. It's not insignificant to them because it should be it's pattern recognition, um, and it should be identical because we work on the exact same engines time and again, if not the actual same engine because it comes back every sort of 12 weeks, um, or however many weeks it is in between events or rebuilds for the particular customer. So yeah, if something's out of line, you recognize it and you can jump on it before it's a problem.
Yeah, and there's been a couple of times when I've gone to the track and we'll have, 20 or 30 customers at the track, and when we go to the track, we're doing basic tuning, basic consulting to get people going. Every once in a
Uh-huh.
while, we have to dive in and get our hands dirty because there's a failure, or we have a customer that's just not comfortable jumping into their own engine. And half the time, when I decide if I'm going to help someone or not, I look in their toolbox. And if they have the channel locks and the screwdriver and the duct tape and the zip ties and spark plugs and sprockets all in the same drawer,
No deal.
I just stand back. I go, "You're going to do this. I'll tell you how." And it's amazing how many people show up to the track and it's just their toolboxes in one drawer. And it's like, how can you efficiently work out of your toolbox? And when you're going to the track, it's not like you have 8 hours to change a sprocket.
No, you got
You
10
got
minutes
15 minutes or whatever it is, depending on the
back on.
series. If it's a club race, you got an hour. If it's a pro kart or a Vortex rock race, you got like 15, 20 minutes before your cart needs to be prepped and ready to go out for that next heat. You can't spend 45 minutes looking for your Allen wrench.
Yeah, exactly. And also too, I mean, if you're at a race meeting, it's got to you should almost be doing no changes, hopefully, because you come in off the track, you've got X amount of time. You need to sit down, you need to clear your mind, you need to have some water, eat a banana, um, think about your race, think about what you're going to be doing next, and just try to remain calm, sit down in your pits, and just decompress because there's a lot of calculations that go on when you're in a cart with like triangulation of your eyes and all this sort of stuff, like getting the braking zones and braking markers, brake pressures, and all these sort of things. There's a lot of sensations coming through your body that you've got to be able to process, and you need to go back to your pits and decompress so that when you get back on the track, you've learned from that, and you're just moving on and moving faster. Especially if you get a good lap, you want to think about it, you want to visualize. So you're sitting in your pits, and you can just sort of visualize that next epic lap. Should be able to close your eyes and sit in the excuse me. You should be able to sit in your go-kart position, metaphorically speaking, and actually start moving the muscles just in your mind that are going to actually move the go-kart around the track, because you are such a big component of the machine. The go-kart's 80 kilos. Drivers are generally 80 kilos, or thereabouts. I don't know what that is in pounds, maybe 180, something,
Not in
whatever.
America.
Yeah, exactly. So we're talking pounds over there. So, yeah, you're basically 50-50. Your car and your driver are generally almost the same weight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can actually control the car a lot with your body and your muscle movements, whether you're tight on one side of your body, loose on the other, your core's tight, your neck's tight, your shoulders could be tight, they could be loose, your right arm could be tight. Like, there's all little things to make the go-kart, change the way it goes through the corners. Because you remember we were talking earlier, you can fix an axle for corner X, but for corner Y, you're just going to have to do something with your body or your driving to get through there better. And I think if you can think about that and then clear your mind before you hit the track again and just go reboot, reload, and go again, I think that's what some of the really high class drivers will do.
Yeah, now that you say that, that makes a lot of sense, because I'm used to you working with, either a mechanic or a dad, and a lot of the times the drivers do just kind of zone out. And being that I'm on the mechanical side when I'm at the track, I'm not, unless I really need to talk to the driver. I usually don't try to get in their face right at the scales unless it's to say great job.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, great job. And I've noticed a lot of the drivers as they're walking back, they're kind of just not there. They're not engaged. That's an excellent observation on your side. And then getting the driver to decompress and detune and
I'll never be yelling at people. It doesn't bring the best out. I mean, occasionally, like I said, it's an emotional sport, and if your driver's doing dumb stuff like hitting people off the track and rear-ending people, I give them a good tune-up, because it's just not racing. Giving the old tap and go, the nose cone into the rear crash bar, it really, really pisses me off when I see that, because you do it to me, I'm going to do it straight back to you. And where do you draw the line? We end up both in the fence. So yeah. I understand a bit of panel bashing where we're both fighting for the same apex with the side pods. You turn in, I'm already there. What do you want to do? You're trying to defend, I'm trying to attack. There's going to be the odd contact on the side pods. I can kind of, it's not ideal. You should be able to affect clean passing maneuvers. But when I see the old tap and go, oh, geez, that really burns me up. And I'll tune up my guys when they come in if I see them doing that too much.
Yeah, like especially, you said, the other guy's just going to retaliate.
Well, you should send it back in with a bit of compound interest, because it's basically bullying. If you're the bitch and you take it and just don't give it back, they're just going to keep, every time they come near you, they just shove you out of the way. And you got to let that guy know, hey, that's not on. You can say it in the pits as a gentleman, hey, excuse me, sir, do not do that again. It's unacceptable behaviour. If they just laugh it off and do it again, and you don't react to it, well, you can say something again. Hey, man, I'm just warning you. If you want to play those games, we can play it. I'd prefer not to. Just saying. But yeah, front to rear contact, definite no in go-karts. You can do it. Everyone can do it. It's dead easy. What are you trying to prove out there? You're just crashing into people. It's not racing. It's just crashing.
Yeah. Now, do you guys have pushback bumpers in Australia?
Yeah, but people still use them for, whatever. Look, contact happens. I understand. We see a lot of those. We see a lot of those drop-down bumpers in the roll-up laps, on the roll-in laps. Just even sometimes knocking them into the. Sorry, I was just getting some water. You see some of the guys, just getting the odd knockdown on the way into the in-grid and copping a penalty. But look, I think it's definitely cleaned it up a little bit. But
come on, no one's ever brake checked anyone on the cool down lap.
No. But once it's off, that's it. There's no questions asked. It's two places, just like that. Have you got any tricks for keeping them up that you could share with us, Jason?
I'm an engine guy.
Nice
And I'm not
sidestep.
going to tell anyone how I keep my bumper on.
Yeah. Loctite or something.
Yeah, I mean they. I personally, I'll be honest. I haven't personally raced with a pushback bumper. There's only one series that I participated in over the past couple of years that made it mandatory last year, and I just didn't get a chance to race with that series last year. But it definitely, it's sad to say, it has definitely cleaned up the racing. And the reason I say it's sad to say is, back when I started karting, you just didn't smash into people, and the people that smashed into people didn't finish races.
Nah.
Because it was always this kind of the same type of people.
Yeah, for sure.
And what we've kind of found is I'm a shifter guy. I race shifters for so long. I find that the shifter drivers have so much more respect for each other. And I don't know if it's because the machines are so much faster. It's just more of a dangerous kart to drive, or what. But it seems like the shifter guys, very rarely do you need a pushback bumper. You don't need to address the drivers for crashing into each other. And we always have there's always a couple of drivers that they hit everybody. They hit the wall. That's just how they drive. But it's not a driving style as far as within the class. The worst crashing I had was in the frickin' Briggs 206. And I don't know if you have 206 down there.
I think we've got something equivalent. But
so
I
is it a
understand
Honda package?
They've
or
got.
Briggs?
Look, I don't pay a lot of attention. I got to be honest. It's
Okay,
not
that's
my
fair.
cup of tea.
Yeah.
They've just bought it in S&P or Briggs. There's a Briggs something.
Yeah,
But
so
they
there's
sound
Briggs
like we call
Stratton
them
206, and it has like a
Yeah.
rev limiter at
it's
4,000.
a concrete mixer. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah, that's the worst for crashing. I don't know how when you're going down the straightaway and the max speed you're doing is 49 miles an hour. I don't know how the guy behind you hits you at 80. I mean, it makes no sense.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and
It's
it seemed like a lot of the kids that were crashers, they came out of indoor karts.
Yeah, well, I think maybe that, like you said, the shifter guys are not crashing, right? But how many shifter guys on their P plates? Like, isn't that more of an advanced class? And maybe the Briggs is just there's no barrier to entry. It's cheap. You can be half cooked and jump in a Briggs and start racing. Whereas if you're half cooked in a shifter, you get it wrong on one corner because of the acceleration's so epic. You just get absolutely smoked. So any little error in a high-powered machine is a massive error at the end of the next straight. You'll drop half the length of the straight from one bad gear shift because you cocked up at the apex. You see it in the start of Rotax races, high-powered engines, a lot of torque. There's a bit of kerfuffle at turn 1 and turn 2. The leader wins the race in the first 3 corners because he just, on cold tyres, he's got a 4-second gap. You can be 1/10 of a lap quicker. That's 40 laps you're going to take to catch the guy. It just doesn't happen because those winners, like we had this guy, David Serra. He came over and raced in America as well. He
Deadly
was awesome.
chassis.
Yeah, like the kid was just on fire in a Rotax car. He was the man. Probably still is if you ever put him back in a go-kart. He's not racing. He's running his own team here, as far as I know. Epic driver, like insane. And he was only just a tiny little grommet when I was go-kart racing in Melbourne. He was, I remember him as a baby before he even started racing go-karts. And then his uncle was a hell go-kart racer. And his cousin he was the same age as me. We used to race together as juniors down in Oakley. And he's got a big go-kart shop in Melbourne. But yeah, when David was probably growing up, he would have got the sort of circling back to that, the reps, he would have done more reps than absolutely anyone I know. And you can see it in his style. When he jumped in those Rotax go-karts, he was dynamite. And he would get a gap at the start of the race, and mate, you were never catching that guy. If he got